Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you're joining us. Welcome to our Welcome Team training. It's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? It's a welcome training. But what this training session is designed for, it's for those who've just started with Redtail and have either just finished their migration or maybe they're still in the process of that data moving into your Redtail CRM. So you're really, truly just fresh to Redtail. We'll be covering topics today that help you set a solid foundation for your CRM moving forward. And that's specifically in regards to customization, your contacts, history, as well as searching. So as you can kind of see, I'm kind of on what I consider my home page here. That's our today page here. But where I'm actually going to start off, I kind of view this as like the back end part of our database, and that's our manage our accounts section. So to get there, we're actually going to go ahead and click our name in the top right corner. And then come down, it's the third option there under manage your account. And then once it loads here, we're actually going to go all the way to the bottom, but I do want to point out something specifically here. This manage database list is specifically housed under our admins only, and not everyone in your database is going to be, or not every user, let me specify that, in your database is going to have admin rights, unless you've designed it that way, in which case you're probably a smaller office, and that's totally fine. But if you're sitting there and you're not 100% sure if you are an admin, and you're sitting there going, well, how do I know? You'll know, because if you do not have admin rights, you're only going to see these 4 topics. It's like this section doesn't exist in your world. So you do have to have admin rights to access the managed database list. And again, if you don't have access, it's perfectly fine. You will just have to go ahead and go to whoever it is in your office that has that right. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to click on that managed database list. We're going to pull up where exactly I consider a good starting point for your foundation, but more importantly, where you can truly customize items specifically to help not only with searching, but with categorizing and organizing in a nice, clean way. So I'm actually going to start off under the contact section, kind of on the right here. I'm going to go specifically to statuses. And what a status is when we're talking about it in this system, think of this as the high level or kind of like your specific relationship with that person. For instance, is that person just a contact for like a center of influence, or are they someone who's a prospect? So they're not quite part of our business. We're trying to get them to become an active client. Or maybe they are an active client. Maybe they're just a spouse of a client. So they're not necessarily someone we do business with, but they are someone we want to keep track of in our system. So this can be completely customizable. The only one that's not something we've added is actually this not specified. And you'll always know which ones are kind of your default system ones, because there's actually nothing you can do with it. These items we've all added, and you can always tell with that because of this action icon. You can always come in here, edit it, because maybe you did a typo, or maybe you guys kind of just didn't communicate correctly within your office and you've accidentally added active client 3 times. It happens, we get it. So you might want to go ahead and delete those, anything that's kind of like repetitive. But again, anything that does not have this, that's a default and it does have to stay within your system. Now, I am going to say one thing really quick here. If you do accidentally make, 3 active clients, so you've got this duplicate item here, before you actually delete any duplicate statuses, I would go ahead, come in here and edit it and just put something in here like duplicate, or if you don't even want to put that much, just put like an asterisk, just so you know that, hey, that is one we're not going to keep. And that way you can always update in bulk, and I'll point that out at the end of this training here. But that way you don't have to basically remove a status and then send those contacts into like a limbo. But again, I'll go over how to bulk but that's just my 2 cents on if there is a duplicate. Kind of similar with status is our category, which again, under context, we have categories here. And that's just kind of specifically that service level that you have with that client or that prospect. So we've gone with an A, AA, AAA categorization. I know kind of a lot of people will kind of compare it to like an airline status, and they'll use like the platinum, gold, and silver. Other people have used just A, B, C, however you want to do it. Just a good way to distinguish who exactly is kind of like your VIPs versus maybe someone who you really only meet with once a year. So just really helps distinguish even further within those statuses. Coming down in that same section, actually, it's kind of right above statuses sources. And it's kind of self-explanatory on this as well. Where exactly did we get these contacts from? Is it someone that might have been referred to from a CPA or from another client, perhaps? Did we hear from them as maybe they contacted us through a seminar they attended, or maybe they just heard from us on a radio platform? Whatever the case is, we're going to want to track this. That way we can make sure that our marketing purposes are still strongly influencing the context we bring in. Nothing's worse than if we're paying money and nothing's coming out of that. So it's a good way for us to, again, add that extra layer of organization to really help pay off in the long run. Coming down, again, on the right-hand side here on this list, is a little bit further down, is activities, types, and categories. Now, these two items here, activity types and categories, and I will say, don't confuse this category with this categories. They are completely different. This one's the contact level. This is for activity and notes. But again, this is just another way to really help with reporting purposes later down the road for historical documentation. It's just to really help limit down specifics. So that way, when you're setting up a meeting, you can put in here what exactly it is. Is it just a client meeting, or is it our client review? Is it a seminar? Is it a staff meeting? Whatever the case may be, that's going to specifically help you distinguish what that type is. And then again, kind of similar as the contact category, just again for activities and notes, that's just to help further clarify what exactly that category should be for that activity and notes. So again, is it something that went with our client reviews? Is it something maybe for estate planning or money movement or something along those lines? Whatever you think of that you'd want to keep track of, whether it be like account opening or support, whatever the case is, you can always add to this list from clicking this add button, typing in that category, add category, and it's instantaneously going to be in this list. There's no need to refresh. There's no need to log out of your system, log back in. No. Once you've added it to any of our lists in this back section here, you can instantly use that. So it's always a good thing to keep in mind. I know some people are like, well, do I need to wait 24 hours for it to load? No, this is going to be something that's instantly in your system for you to use at any point in time for those, whether it be the statuses and categories for a client, or if it is for those types and categories for those activities and or notes. Kind of going to jump back up really fast here because it's a little different in terms of segmenting details, but it is another really great way for organizing, and that's the utilization of keywords for a contact. So again, it's another way to add a layer of detail, but it's a little different in the fact that these are another way for you to kind of lump together a bunch of people who normally have nothing else in common. For example, maybe I have someone from the Jones family and someone else from the Brown family. They've never met each other. They don't even know anything about each other. They have nothing else in common, except for the fact that maybe they're both 401k clients, or maybe they are both fee-based clients, or maybe I do something with them for retirement or prospecting, whatever the case is. These are ways to really help be even more specific for that specific client. Now, you can add multiple keywords to a specific client. You could have just one if you'd like. You can really help do as many as you'd like, though, here. And I know you can get really creative on this list as well. So because you can do it per service, You could do it per charging method type of way. But we also do it in terms of kind of like interests here. So like we have in here event for baseball, event for Chinese New Year's, event for football, anything like that, to really help to establish if you're doing like a client loyalty, hey, they are interested in stuff like this. That way you don't have to invite them to something and then they feel awkward for turning you down because they hate baseball or whatever the case is. This is just another way to help you kind of limit down those contacts from a big pool to a tiny, tiny, tiny little pond. So it's just another way for you to use that. Kind of similarly is the user defined field. Again, this is going to help you narrow down that big old ocean of contacts by a specific item. So again, these are user defined field. The way we kind of approach this and how it's different from keywords, this is kind of like your question and answer type of section. So you can be as, as basic and kind of absurd at first when you think about it, but maybe you want to put down how they take their coffee or what kind of cookie they like. The reason we want to do that is because then if we have our client reviewer, when they come in for that client meeting, if we have that ready for them, that kind of makes you stand out and help really establish that your service is worth it. So it's a way to even track little minute details like that. You can also track, I know a really big one here is whether the RMD has been taken already. You can add one for the year. You can make it a yes or no. I have seen people leave it instead of a yes or no, just as any text. That way they can put like the value that was taken. That's really up to you, but it's a good way to keep track of that because you can always run a report based on it being a yes or based on it being a no. So again, it's just another way to really help get specific people that we're looking for. So that is our managed database list. And again, to get there, you're going to go to your name and then manage your account and then come to the bottom under admins only and the managed database list. I am going to hop over into kind of a different topic now that we've got pretty good foundation on creating our statuses, our contacts, types, everything like that. So where do we really actually want to even see this in work type of thing? So I'm actually going to use a searching tool. So I'm actually going to come over to my contacts tab on the left-hand menu. And then I'm actually going to come to this advanced search kind of at the top here. And then that way we can run specific searches. So I'm actually going to do kind of a basic one here, but why we want to have that status filled out. So I'm going to put my type as contacts. I'm going to put in the field as status. I'm going to kind of search for it here. My operand is going to be equal to, and then it's going to give me those drop-down lists that I've made from the back end here. So I'm going to pick active clients because I want to know all of my contacts who have active client as their status. So I'm going to go ahead and click run. And then I get 303 records from this list. Now, if this is a search that I do quite frequently, I can always save this as a quick list. So what it does, I can just make active clients. Whoop, maybe if I can type active clients, 2019. I can add a description if it's something that doesn't seem pretty obvious. This one kind of is, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll save this. And then it's going to actually save this search parameter, not this list, because this list is dynamic. We're always adding, potentially removing because some people decide to leave our services or maybe they pass away. So obviously this list of 303 records will change consistently. However, this search category is something that we're going to run consistently. So to pull back up a quick list, you can always pull the quick list from this little list tab under quick list here. And I know we've got quite a few here, but if I pulled up that active clients 2019, it's going to immediately bring me back to that page that I was just on. You can do the same tool actually from picking this little, kind of looks like a little kid asked to be picked up here. That's a recently viewed tab. You click on this little icon, you can always pull up your quick list from this one. And then there's that active clients 2019 as well. So you can leave it as broad as this. You can always add on extra layers. So maybe I don't want to know just my active clients. Maybe I want to know my AA client, my AA category clients. So I can always add another layer. So their contact status equal to active client. And we also want it to have a category equal to AA. So it has an even more specific item. And as you can see, from 303 records, we have 128 now. So you don't have to just do one layer. You can make it even smaller. And then you can even add on further for maybe like a keyword, because maybe we're looking for those clients that are specifically for retirement or whatever the case may be. It can really be as narrow or as broad as you truly want it to be. But the one really great thing that we have here from this item, from this list of people, is the option to do things in bulk. So let's say I want to do something to all 128 records here. I can just click this box up here, which is going to highlight all of them on this page. But I also want to go ahead and select all of my contacts. So I'm going to click this little underline bold and then come over here to the right under contact options. You have a couple of different options as well here. So you can always run labels, which is going to sound pretty obvious there. It's for your Avery labels. Mail merges, if you have any documents that you've made in Word that have mail merges, you can always load that in the back. Reports, think of this as like your PDF version. Exports, think of this as your Excel version. Custom exports are basically reports that you've made specifically asking for certain fields to be filled out. But where I'm going to jump to is actually my bulk actions here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here. And as you can see, you've got quite a few options. So you can add them to a seminar. You can maybe add them to a tag group or assign a new keyword in bulk. Similarly, you can always change the status in bulk. So if you've got a bunch of prospects that you just loaded in and after attending a seminar, all of them became a client all in one sitting, which would be a jackpot situation. But maybe it happens. Maybe we can update those prospects to a client in bulk. You have that option from here to do that just by picking what you're going to change it to. Similarly, you have this option to combine contacts, which can be incredibly helpful if you accidentally have duplicates in your system, which I know you're thinking, well, how do I know if I have duplicates besides going through every single person and going through that list? That seems tedious, and I'm not for that. So the easiest way to figure out if you've got duplicate contacts is by actually running a report. So I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to come over here to the left-hand side again and come over here to this reports tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here. And then we're actually going to kind of go what we call like kind of straight across here. So I'm going to go from reports. I'm going to click on this contact reports option. And then again, almost immediately to the right is that contacts by duplicate name. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Let it do its thing. Perfect. Actually went really quick there. And we have everyone who looks like the duplicate. Now, I will say that there are times when you're going to have like the thirds and juniors, and that's because predominantly the name looks the same. So it kind of red flags it like, hey, is this actually accurate or were you just typing for fun? So whatever the case is, if that happens, obviously you don't want to combine these two. But like this one, they are the same person. They just accidentally have two of them. Or in here, we have 4 for the automatic, which we really only actually should have 1. But as you can see here, we have some prospect, we have some active clients. So we can always double check to make sure. And then same with even further down, we have some duplicates for maybe it's just an initial that looks like it's different, or a nickname, whatever the case is. That is something that we can see. So now you've got your list. You're done, right? No, we're going to send it back to that search section so we can actually combine those contacts. So to do that, we're going to scroll back up here. And then if we kind of look at where the title is, we'll come right on over here. We're going to come over to that search tab. And it's going to actually bring us back to that advanced search section that we were just at. So let's say here, you know what, I'm going to combine those automatics, those 2 prospect automatics, because I know for a fact those are the same. We really don't have it. I'm not sure about these 2, so I'm not going to pick those ones. I'm going to pick these 2. So I've got them highlighted. I'm going to come back up to my contact options. I'm going to come back down to bulk actions, and I'm going to come to that combine contacts section. I'm going to select my primary here. Since I know they're pretty much the exact same, I'm just going to pick one. If you're not sure, you can always open up both of those contact records to compare, but you should be able to figure out which one's the primary. And then I'll go ahead and click that combine. Okay, it's going to notify us when we're done. You can always exit out of here. If I've got more that I know for a fact, you can go ahead and combine those. If you'd like to do that, you definitely can just kind of work your way through it. Same with like these two. I'm going to uncheck these two. I'm going to come over here, do the same process, come to bulk actions, combine contacts. And then again, this one I can definitely tell this one has like no detail and this one's all built out. So I can click here, combine my contacts, and again, it'll let us notify when we are all done with that. So that's combining the contacts so you have it nice and clean. It's really quick and simple, but that way you don't have just a bunch of accidental 500 Dr. Dooms for no reason. So it's a really nice way of keeping your contacts nice and clean. So let's pull up a contact here. So we've gone over where to customize our list. We've gone over how to use that list and search for them, but we've not actually been in a contact yet. So let's pull up someone here. So I'm going to pull up, let's pull up Superman here. Good old Clark Kent. And you can always pull them up by searching the contact here. You can always click on this contacts tab, coming over to the C, finding him. That's obviously going to be the most tedious of methods, but you can do that. The other option is if you were just in the record like I was, you can always again click on that recently viewed little icon there and pull them back open. So you do have that as an option as well. So here we are in Clark Kent's record. I'm going to actually come over here to this contact card section to kind of point out a couple of items specifically. So it is very helpful to have only one house phone number, one email, one address, whatever the case, as your primary, which when I talk about primary, think of that literally as like the home phone or the home address. It's the main address. Obviously, if it's their vacation home, that's not their primary address. So let's say you went in here, added a whole bunch, and you're like, whoops, they've moved. We no longer need that. You can always edit it from here. You can always make that address again as primary, or you can always delete it if it's no longer applicable. Now, if you have something that's like the primary, the preferred method of communication. So should something happen with their account, or should we need to call them to schedule a meeting? How do they want to actually be referred? Do they prefer to be called? Do they actually prefer to be emailed? What is their form? So you can actually come in here and click edit. And then in here, we have it as primary and preferred. So the way this is saying is that Clark Kent actually prefers to be called directly from this line for us to either, again, discuss his accounts or call him to set up the meeting, whatever the case is, that's the preferred method of communication. Again, primary, this is going to help you with mail merges because it's going to pull this phone number if we have that in our mail merge document. And similarly, it's going to pull this address because you can always tell if it's marked primary based on this type section being bolded. It'll pop up for that mail merge if you have like the address as part of that mail merge document here. So again, you can always mark them as primary, change it as again, if they move or if their phone number changes, that is something that you can definitely change at any point in time. So just wanted to point that out because I know if there's nothing marked as primary, specifically like those addresses and things like that, then when you do run those mail merges or a report and they don't show up, 9 out of 10 times, that's why that primary is missing. Now, one other pretty big item, and it can kind of cause some confusion at first, is our family section. So in here, Clark Kent, we actually have one that already has the family built out here. We have it Mr. Kent and Mrs. Lane. We could have just titled it the Kent family, Mr. and Mrs. Kent. However it is that you want to put it in, that's up to you, but it's a good way for you to see everyone who's part of that family. Now, I do want to point out, though, whenever we think of family, we're thinking of it as like our spouse and our dependents. So think of it like the tax definition of it. Anyone who's like our mom, dads, aunts, uncles, niece, nephews, cousin twice removed, those, although they are family in one sense, they're not someone we can claim on our taxes. So if that is the case, they're going to be considered a membership. Again, spouse, dependents, anyone that's like a tax definition form of it, that's your family here. Now, we do always recommend, even if you are single, to still create a family because they're still a family. So we've made one for Mr. Kent and Miss Lois Lane here, but if we have one that's maybe missing one, how do you add it? So I actually did find out that we never added one for good old Steve Rogers. How we forgot Captain America, I'm not sure. But in here, we have this option to create a new family. So we can come in here, create a new family, make the family name, if I can type, Mr. Steve Rogers, just like that, because I mean, obviously I could put it as the Rogers family, however you want to feel. I'm just going to put it this way since he's single, create that family, and then save it in here, and it immediately displays here. If the situation always changes where they get married, divorced, they have children, whatever the case is, you would just click on that family name, come in here, add spouse, add dependent, however that case is, but it's as easy as clicking on that name and getting that family updated. Now, I've already briefly mentioned it. If you have anyone who isn't a family member, so literally everything else, that's a membership. We can still keep track of that though. So you're not just over here trying to remember everything in your brain. No. We have a different section. On the left-hand side, you'll come down and actually click on this more, and then come down actually about 3/4 way down under memberships. And then here, we can actually add items in here. So it could be anything from a referral, it could be the beneficiary and trust, it could be the employer-employee relationship, which if you filled out this employment location, when you filled out the contact, this will automatically be added for you. If you've got maybe part of a club that you want to keep track of. So maybe if I wanted to put in here part of the Avenger team, I could actually put that in here. Maybe I actually wanted to put in here any spouse or ex-spouses, deceased spouses, any children that have grown up so that we can't claim them on taxes. They're 40 years old now, they have their own family, they're off on their own. You can add that in here as well. So literally anyone else outside of that tax definition, that's a membership, and you can definitely add that in here to, again, whatever you consider important. So this is your section. So again, that's pretty much the basics with your contacts, and starting out is just kind of getting it organized. So starting off in that managed database list by going in through your manager account, running those searches to narrow or broaden, however you want to do it for those specific people, and then just always making sure that our contact information, one, has a family, and two, has all those important contact card information, specifically one marked as primary for at least a cell phone, personal email, an address, just so you have those in there. Now, I do always recommend, that kind of wraps up our welcome team here, but this was very broad and kind of just a really rough start here for you. So obviously you're going to have questions, and always a good way to start when you're learning out is just by looking at more of our options that we have for training and for learning more. And my best bet for you, kind of my tip, is always clicking on this little help icon here. So you come up here, you can always click on this, and you've got even more options. So if you just want to go ahead, give us a call, but you just don't remember our number, it's perfectly fine. Click on that contact us. It has our phone number, fax, email, when we're open, and everything like that, our addresses if you need them, whatever the case may be. However, we also have what I kind of live in, is that help desk. In here, we not only have some really great articles covering specific topics, and again, this can be something like if you had a question on broadcast email, or maybe you had a question on what a preferred contact source was, or whatever the case is, you can always search from it up here. Another thing I always like to point out here, though, is within our Redtail CRM, let me actually go back here since I clicked that a little fast. The one that has this little, or golden in the hammock here, if you click on this Redtail CRM, we have a couple more getting started documents here. We have our Live in 5 playlist that I always recommend for brand new users. However, I know a big thing that we always get questions on are what other integrations are offered. And if you actually scroll almost perfectly halfway down the page, here's this integration section. So if you have any questions, maybe you're like, I just don't know if they actually integrate. And then if they do, how it works. That's going to actually be in here. It's going to be organized by the certain type, but you can also just click on the CL 134 articles, and you'll see all of those options listed here as well. So that's one really great section for your kind of questions and answers in the help desk. However, another really big item that can really be helpful is this Redtail training. So in here, We've got a couple of items, but most specifically, we have the live webinar schedule. So we have a couple of webinars that we do every week. We have some from our sales team covering the Speak demo, more of the CRM demo. So if you're just, again, you're really new and you just didn't even really see a demo of it, you can always pop in on this on Tuesdays. Also, on Thursdays, every Thursday, unless it falls on a holiday, we have our trainers pop on the webinars here and actually present on a specific topic. So we have anything covering from using the Redtail CRM to help track RMDs, or whether it's covering permissions and privacy options. We also offer partner spotlights. So coming up here, we had one on Intels. I know in the past we've had some covering pretty much anything you can think of with our partners. It's been offered. So again, to click on that, on the help desk, you click on the Redtail training. It's that first option. And then the live webinar is right there at the top. But again, all of those are always recorded. So if you can't tune in on Thursdays and you're just like, oh, I really wanted to cover those RMD topics, fret not. That's still an option. You can always click on it right below. All of our webinars on Thursday are recorded. Same with the partner webinars, just kind of a little further down on that page, there's those partner webinars as well. So if you can't make it, we understand life is busy. So tune in when you can, and then take as long as you want. You can pause it, you can stop it, however the case is. That's your time. You can utilize it how you wish. So that's another really great tool. Again, from that help icon, that little question mark in the CRM, you can get to that page. Now, if you're kind of like me, the last thing I always like to suggest to you, if you don't even pick up the phone to order pizza anymore, submit a help ticket. This is literally going to be, hey, I need help with this. Here's what's going on. Type this in and then send it off. So it's literally, kind of think of this as like your email platform. You don't necessarily have to speak with someone. You just pop off that quick submission of that ticket, and then someone else will help you with that. So you've got a couple of options in here to help you further in the CRM process. But feel free, again, always, the support team, training team, sales team, anyone's always here with specific questions that you have for those specific departments. So never worry that someone's not going to be there to help you.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.